What's up, traders? Doing a quick check-in on the Ethereum charts here. We're starting on the weekly time frame. We'll drill down to the daily and the hourly to see if there are any tradable setups on any of the smaller time frames as well. From the weekly perspective, certainly just noting that we are still in an aggressive downtrend with these really steep lower highs in place. The one thing I would say is that we're starting to build out a little bit of a higher low here, which is running contrary to what we see on the Bitcoin weekly time frame chart. Bitcoin's making an equal low as opposed to this higher low. So a little bit of relative strength from that perspective here in Ethereum, but certainly nothing that would indicate that we're going to see a massive reversal to the upside. All of a sudden going to be trading back up towards that 4,500 mark certainly would be a big stretch of the imagination here from the weekly perspective. Look, if it is going to make a major reversal, you can certainly make the argument for a higher low double bottom, but you'll notice the neckline's way overhead at 1985. Pretty far away from that currently. I don't think that that's in play into the end of this week. Let's take a look at the daily time frame chart now that we've established that the weekly is certainly bearish. From the daily perspective, what do we see here? Certainly, again, sort of a hibernation period in crypto recently. We've gone nowhere over the past month or so, just sideways in this tight little range here. But I would say that this is actually more bearish than bullish. Reason being is that in the past we had this sort of head and shoulders here, and all of this price acceptance, this hibernation has been taking place underneath the neckline of that pattern. So to me, bears are in control just based on that fact alone. Anyone who is interacting long up here and is still holding a position is definitely underwater on that position, right? There's no arguing about that. So to me, it's quite clear, again, that we want to be patient and probably wait for a breakdown of 1250 for bears to continue to sort of roar, if you will, and put in that weekly equal low closer to the big bad 1,000 mark. Nice round figure inside of Ethereum on the downswing. If the bulls are going to make a stand here, then the daily time frame chart has to break this kind of zone up here around 1430. Reason being is it's a super resistance. Not only do you have the trend line, but it's also the neckline of that head and shoulders pattern, right? So for the bulls to make any sort of progress on the daily front, you've got to put in a higher low above that zone. Anything that just remains sideways in here is, again, just failed attempts in my estimation for the buyers to get in gear. The more time we spend sideways underneath the pattern of this head and shoulders, the more likely it is that we do see follow through in the downward direction. So daily chart looks bearish, weekly chart looks bearish. If we look at the hourly though, to see if there's any tradable opportunities here, what you might notice is something different, right? Certainly on the hourly chart, we're starting to build out a little new uptrend here with higher lows in place and also higher highs. Higher highs that I would add are being respected, right? So look at this tiny little flag that formed in here. There's a flag, and look at where the pullback went. Right to the flag and supported off of it for what's starting to look like a double bottom on the hourly. If we can take out the neckline, if we can take out the resistance trend line, maybe we fill up the triangle to the top of the hourly range. This is not the top of the daily range. Remember, we had two levels there. If you look at this hourly sort of zone, you've got a rejection point from here, 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 and this has kind of defined the top of that range, this hibernation period, so to speak, that Ethereum's been stuck in. So from a measured move perspective, does that make sense? There's your initial push, stack that off the bottom of the flag. Absolutely. It seems reasonable that we might be able to get up towards 1383 on an hourly breakout, but is that anything impressive from the daily perspective? Absolutely not. So please don't hold your breath and look for this hourly breakout to turn into a massive reversal from the daily. If you're trading the hourly breakout, trade it on an hourly chart. If you're trading the daily breakout, trade it on the daily chart and make sure you're patient for the move up and over 1430, right? That way your risk reward is in check. If we get something that looks like this and then a break, now you've got this as a range to trade for, hopefully some tight risk with a stop just underneath whatever pattern formed. But if you're trading the hourly, right, then make sure you're using the hourly chart. That way you can look for a break into that top and your stop doesn't have to go somewhere arbitrary like underneath the bottom of the balance. That certainly would make no sense whatsoever. So a little bit more of a lesson in risk reward there, but regardless, just to list sort of the outcomes here and what I think might happen. Number one, we remain sideways in range. That to me seems like the most likely outcome considering that the weekly chart is bearish. Daily chart is getting bearish acceptance underneath the neckline. Number two would be that the hourly sort of fails the breakout of that flag and we rotate to the bottom of the range and then possibly break down. That would be scenario number two. Then scenario number three, this is probably the least likely I think to unfold, is a higher low above that 1430. So just so you know where my head's at, that's kind of how I would break it down here in Ethereum as we move into the remainder of this week. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything new, let me know in the comment section or by giving the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out the main channel. That's where all the good stuff takes place. We're sort of revitalizing the video charts channel here with a couple of uploads today, and maybe it'll sort of start to ramp back up again. We'll see. But regardless, I hope you have a great trading week.